And now we're going to be joined by the head man of your Temple Football Owls, and that is the head football coach in Matt Rhule. Coach, thanks for a few minutes. How are you?
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on.
Well, if you see right here, I'm wearing my New York Rangers, Matt Zuccarello shirt, and I'm very annoyed at you, Coach, because this is why. I get a text from John DiCarlo of Owl Scoop, and he said, Coach Rhule was talking about you before the press conference. And I'm sitting there and saying, what in the world? He has a football team to worry about. Why is he talking about me? So I hear the audio, Coach, and you were saying I tweet too much about the Rangers, and you were going to mute me. Coach, I love you. Why would you mute me on Twitter?
Sometimes things are said after practice that people don't mean, and I'm a lifelong Rangers fan. I want to make sure you know that.
There we go.
But
now, do you still root for the Rangers? Because last time you were on the show, you said you were at the '86 Mets win, but now you're a Phillies fan.
Yeah,
Are you still a Rangers fan?
My son's a Mets fan.
Good parenting right there.
You know what? If I could ever go back and go to the Garden and sit in the blue seats up top, I would probably root for the Rangers. I just find myself too busy to watch much, but deep down inside, those were some of my best memories growing up. And so I appreciate the tweets. Don't take it the wrong way. But, they come in volume on days of the game.
That's right, especially when I'm at Madison Square Garden covering the game. And that's why I bought this Zuccarello shirt just for you today. And then also another thing that you said, and we were trying to get this audio, but we couldn't get it together today, was that behind-the-scenes work. Zach doesn't do a lot of behind-the-scenes work. What's up with that? That's what I was told.
That's not what was
What is up with that?
It's amazing.
I am always here. I'm engineering. I'm producing things. I'm setting up this broadcast today. Moshe would tell you. And what the heck's up with that? I don't do behind-the-scenes work.
That's amazing what's happened in the media today, that the things just, go second and third hand. All I said was I saw Chase, and I said, look at you behind the camera. I said, when am I going to see Zach doing some behind-the-scenes work? That's all. Not that you don't do it. I just look forward to sitting you there, and you could be the guy that comes out and sets everything up, gives me a cup of coffee before we get going, Well,
we did that last time, and Richburg never reimbursed me for your cup of coffee.
I can understand that, too.
He goes, oh, yeah, just get Coach a cup of coffee. We'll pay you back the $3. He left me hanging.
Well, I'll take care of that, too.
I'm just kidding. Matt Rhule joins us at Edberg Olson Hall. Cherry and White games coming up on Saturday at 1 p.m. So the big question with your football team is, what is this offense going to look like? And you made some moves in the offseason from a coaching standpoint. How did those coaching moves of bringing in Glenn and Frisman help this team out?
Well, I think they're two really good coaches. I mean, they have a lot of experience. They're really good teachers. Obviously, Glenn's coached at the pro level, and Frizz played at the pro level. So two guys that have been to where our kids want to get. And I think they've meshed really well with the guys that are here. Marcus Satterfield's our offensive coordinator, and it was really him who pinpointed Glenn and said, hey, this, I didn't know Glenn. He said, this is someone that I think can really help us and help us move forward. So I think those guys, coming in with the guys that we have blended together really quickly, and I think we'll have a really well coached, well run offense.
What really killed you guys last year, and you know this as a coach and how long you've been doing it, is turnovers just kill, and they totally ruin how long you can have your defense rested up, and the field position just gets completely ruined when you turn over the football. How does PJ protect the ball better this year? Because that will decide, in my opinion, if you guys get to that bowl game or not.
Well, I think part of it's to be quite frank, it's on him in terms of a lot of those decisions were trying to make a play, trying to do too much, and while that, it's still part of who you are as a player, and so you've tried to still let him be him, but coach those decisions out of him. And at the same time, it's really building an offense around him where it's not all on one guy, right? And he had some really good players the year before who could take some pressure off of them. We had a lot of guys playing this year who are going to be really good players, but they're just they needed one more year. And so I expect a lot of guys to have breakthrough years, and I expect us to be physically dominant up front with the offensive line. We've kind of been building to this stage with this offensive line, and I think when you have a really good group up front, when you can run the football, when you have really good wideouts who make plays, then the quarterback can kind of take a step back, manage the game, and when the time comes, go make the play that only they can make. And I know PJ can do that.
And you said it, you need pieces around him, and I agree with that. Last year, the run game was inconsistent at times, and that goes to the offensive line, and that's tough when you're rotating in so many different offensive linemen because of injuries last year. But the running backs, you guys recruited, and you did a very good job recruiting this year, and you have some guys returning like a Zaire Williams and a Jihad Thomas. How does this running backs unit look?
Well, I think this spring, really Jamie Gilmore's been hurt, so it's been Jihad who's, I think, really taken a major step. And you have to remember now, he wasn't even a running back going into last preseason camp.
Yeah, that's true.
We had to move him there. So, now he really kind of knows what he's doing, and he's got natural gifts. Zaire comes back. We expect him to do good things. We know that he's a productive guy. And David Hood's really kind of the wild card in this group to me. He's he was a freshman last year. He played a couple games early on, got banged up. We ended up redshirting him. He's got 4 years left. And he's a dynamic, slashing, change of pace guy that I think is going to be a really good player. And I'm pretty high on him. And so I think those three guys, plus Jamie once he gets healthy and then the kids coming in, I think from that competition, 2 guys will emerge. And that's when you get good, when it's not a foregone conclusion. Like even on the offensive line right now, I couldn't even begin to tell you who I think will start. And that's a good thing, not a bad thing. In the past, it's been a bad thing, but I think there's a lot of competition, a lot of really good players at those 2 spots, and I think we'll run the ball with authority.
I know you said you can't tell us who's going to start, but let's say if Penn State was tomorrow, do you have an idea, though, of some guys that you would possibly think about starting? I know you're very high on Brian Carter.
Yeah, Brian Carter, and even he's got some guys on his heels. He's got a lot of physical gifts. Obviously Kyle Friend will start. Eric Lofton, started right tackle all last year, and he's been playing some guard for us too, because we have 2 young tackles we're really pleased with, and James McHale and Jalen Robinson. They're both, McHale's almost 6'5", the other kid's 6'6" something. I mean, they're huge kids, and they're athletic and smart. So we've been force feeding them the 1 reps and moving Eric around, but I think Carter's going to be a really good player. I think Shabazz Ahmed, his second year at guard, he's now up. He's a 300-pounder now. I think. There'll be a lot of good competition, but those would be the names that would be in the mix somehow.
How about Aaron Ruff?
Aaron's had a really good spring. He got hurt last Saturday,
okay.
And we'll see if he can play this Saturday. But he'll be there for the fall, and he's another young guy that he's going to be really, really good when it's all said and done. It's how quickly he can handle the volume of what hits you. But I'm glad you brought him up. He's had a good spring.
I know that there's a lot of injuries on this team now, and it's a lot more on the defensive side of the ball as you're trying to get those guys healthy. This is a very interesting cherry and white game, Coach, because it's the offense now is going to be the white team, and then the defense is going to be the cherry team, where last year we were mixing and matching guys, and you were seeing a lot of good competitions between guys that are 1 or 2 on the depth chart. My big question to you is, though, let's say if PJ gets intercepted in this cherry and white game, and let's say it's Matakevich, and he runs it down to the 5-yard line. That's not a touchdown, but there's no offense. So how does the defense going to score points in this cherry and white game if they don't get into the end zone?
Yes, people with I'm not smart enough to figure the whole thing out. This is
your show, though.
Ed Foley and those guys gave me the score. So, when the defense gets a turnover, they get 6 points. They get a defensive touchdown, they get 10. When they get a stop, they get a point. So the defense can accumulate points, and the offense can accumulate points by scoring. So, one thing about our kids, and that's why I really like coaching this team, is they are really competitive. So I know they're going to find ways to score. They're going to find, they'll be out there lobbying for points for this. And we're also going to do it before the game. We're going to do a little competitions. We're going to put some guys on the spot. We're going to do a kicking competition.
Oh, nice.
Give some points to that to see who can kick under pressure. We're going to do one-on-ones. We're going to do old school Oklahoma and let the offense be versus the defense. So, everything we do is competitive here. And, the outside world, maybe sometimes they don't get the chance to see all that. We try to do a good job with some videos and stuff to get out. But I want people to come see the game, but I also want them to see ahead of time some of the things that we do competitively and see guys in stressful situations. So, but the point system, we'll see how it ends up going. I mean, hopefully it'll work, and hopefully it'll be a competitive day. And I know our defense is going to try to get after our offense, and I think our offense will be up to the task.
Matt Rhule is our guest as we're broadcasting to you live today from Edberg Olson Hall on this Wednesday, April 22nd, 2015. Time right now is 11:15. Cherry and White game is coming up this Saturday at 1 p.m. right here at this facility. One of the biggest differences I've noticed since you've come here with this team is the recruiting. The recruiting has just been absolutely sensational. You're getting those 4-star recruits, but you're also recruiting just in general a lot of athletes. And we've seen guys go from defense to offense or wide receiver to corner, so something like that. And this receiver group needs to be athletic. They need to stretch the field because there was times last year where they would drop the football. That Memphis game is one that just comes to mind right away, and that really costs you guys in the long run. How does this wide receiver groups look as we get close to entering the season?
Yeah, I think first you have some kids that redshirted that probably could have played them, but we made a decision to redshirt them for the long run. I think they'll provide some instant infusion of energy. I think the Ventel Bryant being the first name that I would bring up. Ventel's a really talented kid, and I don't think any of us knew how good he had a chance to be, and how quickly that translates to the games. We have to wait and see, but he's definitely been good. And one of the wild cards, you also are always looking for guys as they get older for things to click, right? Like just think all of us, think of you now. I mean, like when you were a freshman, how different you are till now, and that's sometimes what happens in football, right? Some guys
I'm a lot bigger too.
some guys when they're juniors, it clicks, right? And Sam Benjamin's a guy that's always had. He's the most athletic guy on our team, but it's never translated 100%. Now, he's had some moments. He blocked 2 punts last year against UCF. I think he's going to be a weapon for us on offense this year. So, I think it's going to be a good group. We have some guys, Keith Kirkwood, Ramon DeLoach, who've played a lot of football. We have a couple wild cards. Derek Thomas is a kid who we haven't gotten him yet to do it, but he has as much physical ability as anyone in the league. So there's a lot of pieces that if they could take another step would help us. But I think overall the group's in a much better shape than it was last year.
And the red zone was an area of concern last year. Does it just come down to now you guys have more diversity so teams won't know, hey, you may throw the ball, you may run the ball inside the 20?
Yeah, at the end of the day, we just couldn't run the football in, right? I mean, we're anybody that knows me. I mean, we have the ball at the 3-yard line against UCF, and we're running quarterback draw. I mean, that's that makes my heart hurt to think that that's what the team that I would be coaching, right? But it's just a process, right? So I can promise you that won't be what we have to do next year. We're going to be big and strong and physical. We've got tight ends and fullbacks now that we didn't have. So I think we're going to really challenge people in terms of, you can't go out there and double team Romand anymore because knowing we're going to throw a fade and dare us to run the ball in. So if we just get better inside the 5, and forget even like the whole red zone, inside the 5-yard line and 3rd and 1, we win 3 more games last year, and that's last year. Now it's time taking another step. I mean, how do you take another step to go from 6-6 to beyond? And those are the question you asked. How to get better in the red zone. That's crucial, and I think it comes down to being a physical group and being able to run the ball in, Zach.
Your defense was really good last year, number 2 in the country scoring-wise, and they made so many big plays. Tavon Young was one of those players that really surprised me last year. Tyler Medikevich was consistent again. Up front, that was the biggest difference to me. When you had guys applying pressure on the quarterback, it helps that back end. And you do have some really good back-end players. You return a lot of guys. That's got to be exciting, Coach.
Yeah, they're all back. You never, things happen, right? A kid could get hurt or something. You might lose a guy. But I think we have a culture built on defense. Now, I hate using that word because I hear coaches use it all the time. But that's really a mindset, let's say, where, they demand from themselves a certain level of accountability of play. If the offense makes a play, they don't make excuses. They're upset about it. And it's filtering to the young guys because we have a redshirt freshman defensive group that no one's seen yet that is going to be absolutely lights out. And between Michael Dogby and Freddie Booth Lloyd and Brennan Thrift and Jared Folks and this kid Jaquise Thomas and Shamir Bierfeld, I mean, those kids all came in last year and we redshirted them, and they are going to be as good a defensive group, I think, as we've ever had come through here. That's my hope for them. And they are being trained by a group of seniors that are really bought in on defense and do things the right way. And Matakevich, Ioannidis, Hershey Walton, Tavon Young, Will Hayes, Alex Wells. So I think it's going to be a great mixture of guys this year. We'll have more depth than we had last year and hopefully play at the same level.
And last year, earlier in the year, you guys were rotating so many bodies in and out. Is that something that Phil Snow and you guys on defense plan to continue to do this year?
Yeah, I think you have to do it, especially early on in the year. We play, you play 12 straight games with 1 bye week this year as opposed to 3. And, your first 2 games next year are 2 probably top 25 teams or top 50 teams. I don't know that number, but, Penn State's a big physical group, Cincinnati averaged 41 points a game last year. So defensively, you better have a lot of bodies ready for those guys. And so, we'll try to play a bunch of guys, build depth, and then kind of maybe do what we did last year. As you come down the stretch, you start to hone in on, okay, now here are the guys. But what also that allows you to do when you play a lot of guys early is guys have experience. When their number's called, when guys get hurt, they go out there and they play, and they're ready to play. So, we'll have to develop some depth at linebacker. That's the one area where we're really, really, really thin. Some kids coming in are going to have to play as true freshmen. But other than that, I think it'll be a good group.
Looks like in the cornerbacks and the secondary, just in general, Alex Wells comes back. You have also Tavon Young. I know he's a little bit banged up right now. And then Sean Chandler-Champ, we're going to continue to see him grow. And then you add in Kareem Ali in this offseason. So that cornerback group also looks like a group that is going to even somehow take a step better from last year to this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're a very competitive group. They're coached by probably the most competitive guy, Francis Brown. I mean, he's I coached him way back when, and he was the toughest, most competitive kid I've ever coached, and he brings that to his group. And they had some moments last year where I think they wish they could play better, and they got to the end of the year and they didn't get all conference, they didn't get those things, and so they're hungry. And we have a lot of talent there, I think, and even some of the kids, the Kyrie Lucases who kind of got their feet wet last year, they'll take another step this year, and I think make it a really complete secondary.
If you had to give me one name on both the offense and the defense up to this point that you're like, this one kid just has surprised me a lot, and he put in a lot of work in the offseason, who's that offensive player? Who's that defensive player?
Good question. On offense, I'd say Sam Benjamin. I mean, and that's why I keep talking about it. I think he's going to. I really think he's going to be an explosive, dynamic player. On defense, I'm pleased with a lot of guys.
It's like pick your poison.
Yeah, I'm pleased with a lot of guys. But I will say this: Jaquise Thomas, he's a freshman. He redshirted. He's got some seniors ahead of him, so he'll have to kind of wait his turn. But he's really done a nice job this spring ball. And one other name I'll make sure I say is a kid named Nick Sharga who walked on and transferred in, and I think he's probably one of the top 2 or 3 toughest guys on the team, and he's playing some DN and some linebacker for us, and I think he'll probably play 2 ways for us in the fall. He'll be a fullback for us on offense and on defense. So those are 3 names that I think have really emerged this spring.
All right, so before we let Coach Matt Rhule leave, he joins us right now on set. First year, 2 wins. Second year, 6 wins. For year number 3, what's your expectations for this football team?
Well, and it's, I don't know the right way to say it. I mean, I expect us to compete to win the league. I mean, that's my expectation for them. I expect them to go have a chance to win the conference championship. I mean, you look at down the stretch last year. I mean, we're still not a great football team yet, but we're working to get there. And why else come to Temple? And I'm really hard to play for in some ways. I'm very demanding, and I expect them to do a lot of things. I expect them to get up early. I expect them to challenge their body. I expect guys to come in at 210 and leave at 270. And those things, they're doing those things. So why would you do all that and then not try to go win a championship? You know what I mean? Like, why put up with me and then not go try to win the games on Saturday? So, we're not where we want to be, but we are getting closer and closer by the day. So I expect them to go try to, I expect them to be in the mix for the conference championship. And if you do that, then all your other things come true, right? Then you go to a bowl game. Then no one liked what happened to us last year. And I think we're proud to have won 6 games and know we could have won more. And so this year you have to win those other games. And that's the next step, man.
Does the clock in the Matt Rhule office, does it have a 70, an 80, and a 90? Because 270, the time there is a little bit tough to tell, Coach.
Yeah, no, I operate, I operate to a beat of my own drum a little bit, so like I said, I can be a little bit demanding on these kids, but they're great kids and you'd like them.
How many hours of the day are you in this facility?
I try to be a good father too, so I try to get home at a decent hour. I just come in early. I've never beaten Phil Snow in. Phil Snow's in the building every day at 4:30, working out with the lights off, no music. He's old school in the weight room. It can be scary when you walk in sometimes. But, we probably work during the season, we probably work 80 to 90 hours a week. And then right now we're probably working 60 hours a week. And starting Monday, the coaches will go on the road recruiting. So we come in early so I can leave here about 6 o'clock at night and get home and play with my kids.
All right, Coach, we appreciate it. Thanks so much.
All right, guys.